Karl Marx saw religion as a pacifying opiate of the masses, a means of control. Sigmund Freud saw God as a wish fulfillment. Richard Dawkins famously sees God as a delusion. Now, what evidence can you offer those people who might think that Dawkins, Marx, Freud, and other thinkers have got a point? What evidence can you offer that God really does exist?
The first thing to say is, of course, that the existence of God just isn't something you can give a cast iron proof for, in the way that you might prove, I don't know, the existence of electrons, or whatever, or indeed the existence of some unimaginably obscure and remote animal or insect species, because God isn't an item inside the world that you can go looking for. You have to step back a bit and say, so what exactly are we trying to say? And what the religious believer says is that behind every action, every transaction and exchange of energy, every event in the world, there is something that is unconditionally active. Nothing made it to be active. It's not reacting to anything. It's simply there, and all action is stimulated by that. And oddly enough, modern science allows us a bit more leeway there than some older kinds of science might have done. If you just think the world is a great heap of stuff lying around, then you might well say, okay, perhaps the stuff was always lying around. If you see the world as a great interchange of energy, if you see it as an exchange of information constantly buzzing and sparking between different bits of hugely and unimaginably complex reality, then the question of, well, where does all that energy find its root, its impulse? That makes a bit of sense. I don't think there's a cast iron argument there, but that's one way I'd sort of introduce the idea, reminding people of what often somebody like Richard Dawkins doesn't seem to remember, which is that we're not talking about a God who is just one more thing among others, a rather unusual member of the universe. Second thing I just want to say very briefly is I'd want to put Marx, Freud, Nietzsche, Dawkins, all the others, put their work alongside what it is that Christians over the centuries have actually said about God, and say, well, when you've mapped, let's say, Karl Marx onto that, it covers a very small territory of what Christians actually say. Yeah. And there's all the rest of it. And then Freud covers another little bit of the territory, and Dawkins another little bit of the territory. But none of them quite seems to get the whole thing. If religion is just something we've invented to keep us cheerful, why is it that religious practice is so deeply demanding? Why do people risk their lives for it? If religion is just a consolation for the fact of our death, why is it that religious faith so often tells us it matters intensely how we react to one another and to our world here and now, day by day, and so on? So you can throw all sorts of reproaches at the language of faith, but none of them quite seem to cover the whole territory. There's always something that escapes.